All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another edition of our kind of history in 10 minutes video lecture series that we have here. What we're going to be covering today is the American Revolution, the causes of the American Revolution, told from the point of view of a child and a parent. So we're just going to kind of tell a little story from the point of view of a child and the relationship with a parent, and we're going to compare that to the colonists, all right, our 13 American colonies being the child in all of these kind of scenarios, and Great Britain, Parliament, the King of England being the parent. So imagine this. You start to play in a really cool treehouse in your backyard. But you've got some friends, some troublemakers, some rapscallions who don't like you in the treehouse, and they say, you know what, this is our treehouse, this is our property. I know it's really cool, but it's ours. Your father doesn't really like this because these troublemaker friends of yours, they start to cause some trouble. They start to pick on you a little bit. So one day, Papa comes along, kicks out all of your rapscallion friends, boots them out, and says, never come back, stay out of it. The treehouse is ours now, it's our property. All right, so that's our first kind of scenario, our first cause, and that cause, of course, is the French and Indian War. In this type of scenario, the treehouse, the really cool treehouse, would be the interior of the continent, right? So all of this land west of the Appalachian Mountains would be considered that really cool treehouse. And this conflict, your friends in this case would be the Native Americans, and the conflict would be that French and Indian War. And again, the French and Indian War is a war between the British and the French and Indians. So they boot out the British, the British boot out the French, they push back the Native Americans and claim all of this land for Great Britain. They say, this is ours now, not just this little strip along the coast, but all of it. So that's the French and Indian Wars. All right, so after your friends have been booted out, your parents decide you can't go in that treehouse anymore. We want you to stay out of that treehouse. I know that it's ours. I know it's really cool and it's really valuable, but you got to stay out of it because I don't want you getting in trouble with your friends anymore. Like, what the heck? We just fought for it and now I can't go in it? Well, this, of course, is the Proclamation of 1763, when Great Britain drew a line along the Appalachian Mountains and said, colonists, you are not allowed to settle west. You must stay on this side, the east side, the coastal side of the Appalachian Mountains, because we don't want you getting into any future trouble with the Native Americans. We know we just fought a war for it. We know you thought you were going to be able to settle there. Not happening. Now, of course, if you're the child, you're probably going to go out into that really cool treehouse anyway. You're going to sneak into that treehouse. The colonists did the same thing. They snuck across the Appalachian Mountains, and this proclamation of 1763, it upset the colonists, but they basically said, meh, we're going to do it anyway because we want this space. We want this land out there. All right. Now, since the proclamation isn't really working, and since this your parent telling you can't go out there isn't really working, your father now decides that he is going to build a fence in the backyard. And he says, all right, I'm building a fence, I'm keeping you out, you're going to stay out of that really cool treehouse. The British government says, we're going to keep you out, so we're going to send troops to the colonies to keep you out. Well, of course, this costs money. So your father, in our analogy, your father says, I'm taking away your allowance to make you pay for the fence that I'm going to build to keep you out of the treehouse that you want to be in. All right, so now you're starting to get upset with that. You're going, what the heck? You're not letting me in the treehouse. I want to be there. You don't want me to be there. You're building a fence to keep me out of it now, and you're making me pay for it. All right, this analogy represents the Stamp Act, where the British government basically put a tax or a stamp on official paper documents, playing cards, newspapers, things like that, in the American colonies to force the American colonists to pay for the British soldiers, to pay for the French and Indian War. So you've got some colonists who are getting upset and be like, hey, we didn't ask for this, and you didn't ask us if we wanted to help pay. You're just forcing us to pay. So that was what the Stamp Act was. Well, what do the colonists do? Well, they just refuse to buy paper products. They say, fine, you're going to tax our paper, you're going to tax our newspapers and things like that. We're just going to boycott, right? We're going to refuse to buy it. We're going to refuse to participate. We're going to boycott this tax. And the British government realized quite quickly in 1765 that this Stamp Act wasn't really working. And it just wasn't going so well. And so they repealed or took away the Stamp Act. All right, so that brings us up to 1765. So we got the French and Indian War, we have the Proclamation of 1763, we have the Stamp Act, and now we have the Townshend Acts in 1767. All right, so your folks, dad, mom, they agreed to give you your allowance back. Right? They've repealed what they were doing. They agreed to give your allowance back, but just to show you who's boss, they decide that anytime you want to play video games or use your cell phone, you are going to have to pay them money. Right? They're like, yeah, we'll give you your allowance back, but do the things you want to do, you still have to pay us, right? Because they want to just show you who's boss. How do you react to that? You get ticked off, of course. You're like, what the heck? Make up your mind. You're not including me in this. You're taking away my allowance. You're giving it back. You're making me pay for my cell phone and my video games. So you're starting to get really frustrated with mom and dad at this point. And so what do? Well, you probably, you're going to get upset with them. And the colonists, in this case, this represents the Townshend Acts in 1767. They got upset too because they're luxury items like glass and paint, right? A cell phone and video games are luxury items. You don't need them to survive, but they are nice. And tea in the colonies. These things were taxed. So again, the colonists, they got angry. They protested and they boycotted. They said, fine. We're not going to buy things from Great Britain. We're not going to buy British paint. We're not going to buy British tea. We're not going to buy British glass. And so we're going to buy them from other places, from maybe, I don't know, the Dutch, who were a rival of Great Britain at the time. And again, the British, they're getting upset about this. And so they repeal the Townshend Acts, like, okay, that didn't work. And finally, as the child, you're like, finally, the colonists are like, finally, you're listening to us. But the British, they only repealed part of the Townshend Acts. They still left a tax on tea, which the colonists were like, whatever, we'll deal with this later. You took away most of the taxes. All right, so now back to our analogy for the Tea Act in 1773. Your parents tell you that, all right, fine, you can play video games, all right? You don't have to pay for them anymore. We repeal that rule, but you can only play one video game. And of course, they pick the video game that you get to play. You don't get a pick. So what do they pick? Well, they pick Justin Bieber Rock Band, right? So Rock Band Justin Bieber edition. And you're like, what the monkey? Why are you making me only play Justin Bieber Rock Band? Like, how come I can't choose? You're really starting to get mad at them, right? Okay, at first it's like, cool, I can play video games without paying. But now it's like, what? You get to tell me what video game I get to play? This is ridiculous. This is like the Tea Act. The British government, Parliament said, colonists, we're going to sell you tea, only British tea, and we're going to lower the price on it so it's cheaper than all other tea, but we're still going to tax you for it. And the colonists were like, whoa, 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 whoa. All right, so you're selling it to us for cheaper, which we like, but you're still taxing it. You're still taxing us without our consent. You're still taxing us without our permission. Parliament is just passing all of these taxes, and the colonists don't have any say in this. All right, so the colonists are really starting to get fed up. All right, this Tea Act is kind of starting to push them over the edge. So back to our parent-child analogies here. So you're starting to get fed up with your parents. You're saying, you know what, enough of Rock Band Justin Bieber edition. This is ridiculous. So one night, in a fit of rage, you smash Justin Bieber Rock Band edition, you cause all kinds of ruckus, and you get really mad. You destroy it. Well, your mother, she's not too pleased. She's got Bieber fever, and she's pretty ticked off. So your parents take away all of your freedoms, basically. They ground you to your room, and you cannot leave. They are forcing you to repay the damage to Justin Bieber and the Rock Band edition. They take away your cell phone. They take away your internet connection, so you can't communicate with any of your friends, and they basically isolate you. All right. This really kind of upsets you. The British did something similar after the Boston Tea Party, which is what happened as a result of the Tea Act. As a result of the Tea Act, the British colonists started destroying, in Boston, the colonists started destroying the tea. They threw it overboard, had the Boston Tea Party. Britain was ticked, right? They were real mad. They said, all right, we're closing down Boston Harbor. You are not allowed to leave Boston. You're not allowed to leave Boston. You must repay us for all of the tea. We're not allowing you to talk with your friends or have town meetings. We are removing all of the judges from Boston, and we're putting in our own judges. They came down hard on the people of Boston. This was called the Intolerable or Coercive Acts in 1774. All right, and so how are the people of Boston? Well, they are not happy with this. And the other colonies, they're starting to see this and be like, wow, the British government, they're kind of overstepping their bounds here. And what they're doing, this is no bueno. It's not good. So people from around the colony start to unite. They start to help Boston. They start to form militias or their own armies because they're going, things are about to get real bad with Great Britain. So we need to be prepared to fight with their own militias. They form the First Continental Congress, where they send delegates or people from each colony to basically plan and figure out how they're going to deal with the British. And things are really starting to get bad. All right. So, and one last thing, your parents, in order to help you kind of repay and show your loyalty to the British, or to them, to show your loyalty, they make you stand in the front yard and sing all of Justin Bieber's hits at the top of your lungs. Embarrassing, but fortunately for you, Mr. Bieber does not have many hits. But it's embarrassing, it's frustrating, and you are mad with your parents. All right, and that brings us to the very kind of end of this analogy here. All right, you are sneaky. You have hidden an iPod Touch, you've hidden a cell phone that you still have access to. And one night, they hear you tapping out a text message, you've got your tunes blaring, you're listening to some Lady Gaga, they hear it and they're like, oh, so he's still got some stuff that he's not supposed to have. And they're whispering, your parents are, and they're saying, in the morning we're going to sneak in there, we're going to take his cell phone, we're going to take that hidden iPod. Your little sister, finally good for something, she hears this. She comes up ahead of time and she tells you, she's like, dude, parents, they're coming in the morning. Hide the iPod, hide the cell phone, they're going to come and take it. And you're like, wow, thanks, sis, I appreciate it. And so when your parents come in that morning, you are ready, and you go toe-to-toe with him. You get in the shouting match, and you're like, that's it, I have had enough. You push me around no longer. All right? The analogy here, right, this is basically like Lexington and Concord. The British colonists, the colonists in Massachusetts, they have been hiding weapons because they are preparing to fight. So the weapons are like the hidden iPod and cell phone. A gentleman named Paul Revere, here's what the British are going to be doing, and he goes on to warn the people in the town of Lexington and the town of Concord. He says, hey, the British are going to be coming in the morning. They're going to be stealing you. They're going to be taking back the weapons. Get ready. The British come to Lexington and Concord, and sure enough, the colonists are ready. And we actually see, for the first time, shots fired on both sides, where you have patriots, American colonists or British colonists, firing on the British Army. And of course, from here, that kind of sets off the entire American Revolution, because at that point, there is no turning back. Blood has been shed. People have died on both sides, and the American colonists decide, we need to unite, we need to rebel against Great Britain, we need to declare our independence. All right, so there it is. There's that story of the child and the parent constantly going back and forth. Over time, we see where it goes from just something minor to something that leads to this explosion of anger. Alrighty, so I hope that helps to kind of clarify the cause of the American Revolution a little bit, give a new spin on it. Good luck, and I will check you later.